All right, guys, welcome to Flavo Rihanna's MMA show. I'm your host, Flavo Rihanna, brought to you by Four Corner Sports. All right, guys, so in conclusion of UFC 262, it was held at the Toyota Center in Houston, Texas, and we got a new champion. Well, of course, we got a new champion because due to the fact that the belt was vacated because of the retirement of Khabib Nurmagomedov, and we had a showdown between Michael Chandler, Iron Michael Chandler versus Bronx Charles Oliveira. All right, that was the main event. Co-main event was Bonilla Daryus versus Tony Ferguson. There was Matt Chanel versus Rodrigo Bontarine. There was also a Caitlyn Chukaykin fight. Caitlyn Chukaykin versus Viviani Arusha. And then obviously the opener, the fight of the night, which ended up being Hurricane Shane Burgos versus Edson Jr. Barboza. So, without further ado, I'm going to go straight to the main event. Main event, title fight, lightweight title on the line. Charles Bronx Oliveira versus Iron Michael Chandler. And what a round one we ended up kicking off to that fight because of the fact that it was like two completely different halves of a round. All right. Michael Chandler starting off the round, applying pressure, trying to do the same technical tactic that he ended up doing to Dan Hooker when he fought him in January. You know, punching the body, trying to set up for that over right hook, and Charles Oliveira was very aware of that. It was a very basic technique, but Oliveira ends up kicking the leg, and I believe it was his left leg. He ended up falling down. At some point, these two guys ended up scrambling onto the floor. Chandler wanted to go down to his, pop out, go on his knees, and then he gave up his back. Never gave up your back against Charles Oliveira. There's a reason why he has the most submissions in UFC history. This guy is possibly the best, BJJ fighter that's actively on the UFC roster. I mean, come on, guys. This guy is a magician when it comes to fighting on the floor. He will be able to... One simple mistake can cost you the fight. And it almost did cost him the fight in that first round against Chandler. But Chandler, talking about leading up to the fight that his wrestling is anti-jiu-jitsu. He was able to get around it. He was utilizing his power. His power definitely was displayed, and Charles Oliveira definitely did feel it. Oliveira did get clipped, and then Oliveira was getting grounded and pounded on the floor. I know Daniel Cormier said that was a mistake on Michael Chandler's part, but just because of the fact that Oliveira knows how to fight on the ground, he knows how to minimize damage and stuff like that. But I just honestly felt like if Chandler would have just continued to do that ground and pound for maybe like an extra 5 to 10 more seconds, we possibly might be having a different, outcome on Saturday. All right. Dan Miragliotta clearly knew on the style of Charles Oliveira. He knew that Charles Oliveira would be okay, utilizing damage on the floor and know how to minimize it, and then for him to be okay. But allowing Oliveira to get up, letting the round finish going into round two, I felt like that was a huge mistake, and I think it really did cost Michael Chandler a great opportunity on capturing the belt. Now, going into round two, inside of 19 seconds, Oliveira, just throws a simple left hook, drops Michael Chandler, hits him right flush on the chin. Guys, I have a big issue when fighters keep their hands low. I understand that, you might be comfortable and stuff like that, but it's just basic fundamentals. You have Oliveira keeping his hands up, Chandler keeping his hands low, Oliveira going clean for that hook shot, hitting Chandler right dead in the chin, and Chandler, ended up getting dropped, and that was the beginning of the end. Chandler tried to scramble, trying to run away, trying to buy some time, and then what do you know? Oliveira clips him again, and Dan Miragliotta said, "That's it, it's over." He's seen enough. Chandler was not going to be able to endure much punishment, and that's it, guys. Yeah, we have a brand new UFC lightweight champion of the world, Charles Bronx Oliveira. Now, if you ask me how that fight would have ended, if for Charles Oliveira, I honestly would have went submission. I don't think it would have went, all 5 rounds with Oliveira. I don't think Oliveira would have been able to last all 5 rounds with Michael Chandler, especially with that pressure. Honestly, that pressure would have been, very fatiguing on the body of Oliveira. But I obviously would have given you submission when it comes to Charles Oliveira. But for Oliveira to knock out Michael Chandler, all right, go the complete different route in round 2 than when he went from round 1. He went to the center of the octagon, applied the pressure to Michael Chandler, which is something that Michael Chandler does to his opponents. He doesn't normally receive it. Throws the left hook, lands flush, drops Chandler, and then, pursues for the onslaught to finish the fight. Phenomenal stuff. Now, what goes on now next with these 2 opponents? Well, it's kind of a mix because it comes down to 3 different fighters. 2 of them are fighting each other, which is Conor McGregor versus Dustin Poirier. Justin Gaethje doesn't have a dance partner as of yet. What I personally think it should happen is the winner of Dustin Poirier and Conor McGregor should fight for the belt. All right. I know that if Conor wins, there's no way that the UFC doesn't try to promote that, especially that would be like his first legitimate win. I know he beat Cowboy, but that would be like his first legitimate win since beating Eddie Alvarez back in 2016. And if Dustin wins, I mean, like it'll be a clear, obvious choice on who is the next challenger for Charles Oliveira. That would be a very interesting fight due to the fact that the jiu-jitsu that Oliveira, is going to try to use against Poirier, plus Poirier's, boxing and now his leg kicking. I would love to see that. It might be very similar to how Chandler would be fighting, but, very interesting matchup. And then obviously Conor, right? If Conor fights, Oliveira, how would that fight go? All right. Conor, more of a stand-up fighter. It's not really known for any ground game whatsoever. How would he be able to maneuver out of these submissions, these ground games that Oliveira presents at the table? Would Conor McGregor try to have to go for an early first-round knockout to make sure that he's able to secure the belt? All these things come into play, and then you have Justin Gaethje, who is a great wrestler but doesn't utilize it. Has phenomenal boxing, who's trained by the great Trevor Whitman. How would that work out? So all these 3 things come into play. If everything goes to plan, I do feel like Dustin Poirier has a great chance of beating Conor McGregor. If he beats Conor McGregor, Poirier fights for the belt. Then you have Justin Gaethje fight Michael Chandler, and then you can have Conor McGregor fight Nate Diaz for the trilogy. That would obviously be like the best case scenario, because then everybody gets, what they deserve. But as for Michael Chandler, his easiest way to getting back to a title shot, he might have to fight Justin Gaethje. And that's a bad man right there. Just because of the fact that this guy hits hard, he's tough, and he's a violent out. That would be your quickest route. Because he says he wants to be back at a title shot inside of 12 months. I don't think it's going to be in 12 months. I really see about anywhere between 14 to 16 months before he gets another title shot. But that's just me, because lightweight is very stacked. Moving on into the co-main event, we had Beneil Dariush versus Tony Ferguson. Tony Ferguson on a 2-fight losing streak, fighting Beneil Dariush, who ended up having a great performance against Carlos Diego Ferreira back in February. These 2 gentlemen, have a lot at stake. Beneil Dariush risking his lengthy win streak against Tony Ferguson, who lost to Charles Oliveira, lost to Justin Gaethje, right? If he loses to Beneil Dariush, he might be no longer considered an elite fighter. Well, Beneil Dariush played it safe. I understand it. There's a reason why they call Tony Ferguson the boogeyman, El Cucuy. And this is back-to-back fights that we've seen Tony Ferguson get grounded, get dominated on the floor. Sure, Ferguson didn't really endure that much damage. Outside of the fact of that heel hook. Guys, I can't believe that this guy did not tap from that heel hook. Did you guys see how the knee ended up almost like snapping in half? The way that Beneil Dariush ended up getting grip of that ankle? I want to say 99.9% of the people in this world would have easily tapped out to that heel hook. But Tony Ferguson's one of those rare people out there that's willing to endure the pain, to prove, hey, I can handle this type of pain. But more power to you, Tony, because of the fact that I would have tapped out immediately. That was very painful, and it just showed Tony was in great agony and he wanted to tap, but the willpower in him just refused for him to get to that point. So Daryus ends up dominating the fight, 3 rounds to nothing, a 30-27. Calls out Elon Musk. That was a great call out. Calls out Elon Musk because of the fact that he had bought a Tesla back in December. We're now officially into May, in the middle of May. It's going on to 6 to 7 months that he hasn't gotten his Tesla. His wife is pregnant, and I completely understand. Use your platform, because Elon Musk did respond, and his response was sorry for the delay. It will be coming out to you very soon. That was a great call out by Daryus. But the real call out is that he wants somebody in as a title eliminator, whatever that can be. Honestly, that could be something of like the loser of Chandler versus Gaethje. If that was to happen, they could fight Bonilla Daryus. Or, I don't know. I mean, it's very tough because outside of that, Ferguson just lost. Can't really fight RDA because RDA, he's not inside of that top 5. So, Bonilla Daryus says that he's willing to wait up until December so he can have a little bit more time to spend time with his daughter, which is great stuff because by then, we can have a different, we might have a different champion by then. We might have different people inside of the top 5. Who knows? But by December, it could be somebody like Islam Makhachev, which that's a scary dude, and I'm very surprised that Bonilla Daryus isn't afraid of wanting to fight Islam Makhachev, because that man, he's like the boogeyman. He is what Kamaru Usman used to be at 170 when people were trying to avoid him. Third fight in the card, we had Matt Schnell versus Rodrigo Bontorin. Rodrigo Bontorin ended up missing weight by 1 pound. It was a catch weight. These two gentlemen naturally flyweights. Honestly, poor performance by Matt Schnell, and the reason why I'm saying poor performance on him is because of the fact that Rodrigo Bontorin ended up having to cut a lot of weight. Clearly wasn't in that great of a shape. Clearly looked very bulky, and it was a very slow-paced fight. But the fact that Matt Schnell should have been able to pick it up and really test out the cardio of Rodrigo Bontorin. Rodrigo Bontorin looked, had a very slow, steady pace, and he was dominating the fight. Was dominating the control of the octagon, landing more punches, landing more crisper punches, right? And Matt Schnell wasn't able to do any of that whatsoever. I think it was just, he lost in his hometown, didn't control the octagon, didn't pressure Bontorin, didn't test out his cardio, and it was just an easy win, I would say, for Rodrigo Bontorin. Now, I can't reward somebody for missing weight, but honestly, Rodrigo Bontorin might have to fight, somebody like a Tim Elliott, who's like a top 10 flyweight. Honestly, I wanted to see Bontorin, move up the rankings, but with missing weight, you just don't reward bad behavior. Second fight of the card, it was Caitlyn Chukaykin versus Viviani Arusha. Now, Caitlyn Chukaykin has been fighting a lot. It's been fighting a lot in the year of 2020. Fought Jessica Andrade. Ended up fighting Antonina Shevchenko, fought Valentina Shevchenko. So she fought plenty of opponents in 2020. I believe she also fought Cynthia Calvillo, if I'm not mistaken, and was winning fights, was losing fights. This time she's fighting a top 5 Viviani Araujo. She was willing to risk her number 1 or number 2 overall ranking at the flyweight division. She wants to get closer and closer towards a potential matchup against Valentina Shevchenko. Honestly, I have no real interest in that fight because Valentina dominated Caitlyn Chukaykin. Chukaykin had no answer whatsoever during the ground game. She ended up getting crucifixed. She ended up getting hit with a spinning heel kick that, honestly, if it would have hit the bottom of the foot as opposed to the ball of the foot on that fight when she fought Valentina, she would have been knocked out. Similar to how Edson Barboza ended up knocking out his opponent 11 years ago. But yeah, guys, so that's what happened. Chukaykin ended up winning. She ended up dominating the fight. Not dominating the fight, actually. Dominating her fight when it comes to fighting within range. Controlling range. Making sure she was throwing enough punches to force Viviana Araujo to think of a different game plan. not allowing Viviani to get closer, to throw combinations, to throw, overhooks, throw hooks and stuff like that. But Viviani Arusha looked like she was frustrated from rounds 2 and 3 to getting fighting closer within range, because Caitlyn Chukaykin was just fighting at distance, throwing a side kick, throwing a couple punches to the body, throwing a couple punches to the face, and it was just easy 29-28 for Caitlyn Chukaykin. So what happened next, guys? Honestly, Chukaykin is nowhere near close to getting a title shot, even though she is ranked number 2 in the world when it comes to flyweights. My thing is, like, she should honestly fight Jessica Eye to avenge the loss that she ended up receiving from her. That's the only thing that runs through my mind. As for Viviani Araujo, she's going to take a little bit of a step back, but in my opinion, she should fight the winner of Miranda Maverick versus Macy Barber, and then see where it goes from there. It sounds like a great fight, but that's what I have for Viviani Araujo. And then lastly, the opener of the card, a fight that I personally predicted to be fight of the night. Hurricane Shane Burgos versus Edson Jr. Barboza. Now, these two featherweights ended up going at it, all right? Barboza from Brazil, and Burgos from the Bronx, all right? Bronx, New York. Going at it. Fight of the night, for sure, right? It seems like Burgos gets himself into a lot of fight of the nights. His infamous fight against Josh Emmett. He took a lot of damage in that fight. Took a lot of damage in this fight too. But man, oh man, I've never seen something like this before. I had to, look up on YouTube to see exactly why did the ending of Burgos happen in that fight. Because eating so many punches, so many, kicks and blows to Burgos from rounds 1 through 3, that halfway through the middle of the third round, after a right hook, a right overhand actually, to Shane Burgos, he bops his head, goes with the head movement, loses control of his legs, starts backpedaling, falls back, hits the back of his head against the cage, and then Barboza runs up and just tries to, hammer fist him up until referee pulls him off. It was one of the weirdest things I personally have ever seen. Never seen something like that happen. Usually I see something like that with a liver shot, but for somebody to go down, a delayed response on a punch to the head, all right, was something very bizarre. Doctor had said that the amount of damage that Burgos was receiving throughout the fight, that head movement was just, ended up triggering something in his body for him to shut down. But man, oh man, I heard that Burgos is okay. Barboza is 3-0 in the featherweight division. Honestly, Barboza wants somebody in the top 5. I don't blame him. I think a fight between him and Calvin Kattar, or him and the Korean Zombie, sounds amazing. But yeah, guys, I mean, that sounds something that the UFC might have to go in the direction. And as for Shane Burgos, if he's officially good enough to fight, I would like to see him fight Hakeem Dawood. I know that fight was originally scheduled to happen. It got canceled because of COVID, but what a better time now. Burgos coming off of 2 losses in a row, fighting Hakeem Dawood, who is a dangerous featherweight. These two will instantly make it, a scrap at 145. But yeah, guys, so that's my recap of UFC 262. Personally, was it the best card that has happened? No, it has not. I mean, we had some crazy stuff happen. Jacare in the prelims, having his arm broken via an armbar. First time he's ever lost by submission. Caitlyn Chukaykin, pulling off an upset over Viviani Araujo, which I had Viviani winning by knockout. The delayed response by Shane Burgos, him collapsing down to the floor after a punch a few seconds before, and then Charles Oliveira capturing the title, bringing back a title to Brazil, and him being and new lightweight champion of the world, Charles "Do Bronx" Oliveira. All right, guys, so that cuts everything, that's everything for this week when it comes to UFC 262. Later on this Saturday, you're going to have Cody Garbrandt versus Rob Font in the main event, Bantamweight Showdown. Can't wait to see that happen. Somebody's going to go down. Somebody's going to get knocked out. Can't imagine those two fighters going all 5 rounds. Until then, guys, I'm Flavo Rihanna. Please hit that like and subscribe button. I'll see you guys next time. Peace, guys.